History is rife with examples of monarchs and queens who were cruel to their subjects, had poor leadership abilities, or lacked a grasp of reality. However, some kings and queens were mocked and frequently despised by their people for their bizarre actions and unreasonable behavior, which caused them to go down in history as insane. Stay watching to know about the top kings and queens in history whose reigns were troubled by mental illnesses that rendered them unfit and unable to govern their kingdoms. Welcome to History Mysteries topic, 10 Mad Monarchs in History. Here are 10 mad monarchs in history you probably didn't know about. 1. Caligula, the Roman Emperor. Numerous controversies marred the short reign of the Roman Emperor Caligula, 37 to 41 AD, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that he was an insane, sadistic, and perverse tyrant. He allegedly killed men for fun, engaged in sex with his sisters, demanded to be worshipped as a living deity, and his extravagant lifestyle and construction endeavors led to a financial crisis and starvation. The Roman account's veracity is debatable, but the emperor quickly developed a strong dislike among his peers. The Praetorian Guards murdered Caligula in 41 AD, making him the first assassinated Roman ruler. 2. Charles VI of France. Charles VI of France's rule, 1380 to 1422, got off to a good start. He became known as the Beloved, after assuming power at the age of 21 and greatly improving the nation's political and economic situation. But at the age of 32, he experienced his first bout of insanity, which led to the deaths of 4 of his soldiers in an assault on his brother Louis of Orleans. From that point on, he experienced numerous episodes of madness that ultimately grew more frequent and prolonged. Thus, the Mad King became the new name for the Beloved King. Despite this, he ruled France until his passing in 1422, but his mental instability had a disastrous impact on his empire. Due to the king's incapacity to make political choices, ferocious princely power struggles that resembled a civil war sparked the English to start the 100 Years' War again, 1337 to 1453. 3. Henry VI of England. Henry VI of England was Charles VI of France's grandson, which may have added to his mental instability. He ascended to the English throne in 1422, but he didn't take over until he was legally proclaimed of age in 1437. As soon as he gained control, problems started to arise because he was powerless to stop the group fighting. The English possessions in France were gradually but firmly passing into French hands at the same time. He experienced some type of mental breakdown in 1453, going into a state of near vegetative for more than a year in which he was unresponsive to anything or anyone around him. The Duke of York exploited the king's illness to consolidate his authority while doing so. Following Henry's recovery, the houses of Lancaster and York engaged in the War of the Roses, which is also known as the English Civil War. Henry was stripped of the crown in 1461 but was restored in 1470. He was deposed less than 6 months later, and he passed away soon after in the Tower of London. 4. Ivan the Terrible. The Tsar who founded the Russian Empire was an excellent military leader and administrator, but his flaw was an unstable temperament that showed up in outbursts of anger and cruelty. Ivan's fit of rage worsened during his later control. He was Tsar of all the Russians from 1547 until his death in 1584, when he was Grand Duke of Moscow from 1533 to 1547. He struck his own son and heir to the throne in the skull with a pointed staff during one of these outbursts, fatally wounding him. Additionally, he created the so-called Oprichniki, a special force that terrorized the nobility and eliminated anyone seen as a danger to the Tsar. Ivan personally led the troops to Novgorod prior to the Oprichniki's dissolution in 1572, ransacking the city and murdering thousands of mostly affluent citizens in what became known as the Novgorod Massacre. 5. Ludwig II of Bavaria. Although Ludwig II of Bavaria isn't regarded as a crazy monarch by modern Bavarians, his time period did, mainly because of his extravagant lifestyle and apparent disregard for his royal responsibilities. At the age of 18, he ascended to the Bavarian throne in 1864, and by the time he was 20, his realm had merged with the larger German Empire. Ludwig, who was still officially the King of Bavaria, however, made no attempt to regain his country's freedom. He instead focused on overly ambitious artistic and architectural endeavors that totally depleted the royal coffers. The very same projects, many of which are now among the most well-known and frequently visited monuments in Bavaria, were employed against him to depose him. Ludwig was deemed insane and removed from office on June 12, 1886. One day afterward, he passed away in an unknown manner. 6. Ibrahim, Sultan of the Ottoman Empire. Sultan Ibrahim of the Ottoman Empire. In 1640, Ibrahim took over as Sultan of the Ottoman Empire from his defunct brother Murad IV. However, the 25-year-old Sultan was unable to govern because of his mental instability. Additionally, his mental state wasn't ignored, and he quickly earned the nickname, Ibrahim the Mad. His regent mother Kosem Sultan managed to keep the empire largely stable, but Ibrahim's irrational acts, including drowning his entire harem, the increasing influence of his concubines, and his extravagant lifestyle, which necessitated the imposition of new taxes, led to widespread discontent with his rule. The Mad Sultan was ultimately overthrown by the Janissaries 1 year after the Grand Vizier and his own mother plotted to have him removed in 1647. Ibrahim was murdered 10 days after his statement. 7. Rudolph II, Holy Roman Emperor. From 1575 to 1612, Rudolph II was the Holy Roman Emperor and a very divisive character. He had a strong passion for the arts and occult studies, but not as much for governing. His poor political choices, which are attributed to his obsession with his interests on the one hand and ignorance of the realities of his time on the other, quickly sparked a widespread unrest that was shared even by his own family, the Habsburgs. However, Rudolph was also prone to frequent depressive episodes, which were fairly typical among the Habsburgs. The Habsburg archdukes ultimately made him cede effective control of a large portion of the empire to his younger brother Matthias as a result of his political failures and deteriorating mental health. When Rudolph II passed away in 1612, he was only formally the Holy Roman Emperor. 8. George III of the United Kingdom. Known as the Mad King who lost America, George III of the United Kingdom was nevertheless one of the longest-ruling British kings. In addition to the British defeat in the American Revolutionary War, 1775 to 1783, and the consequent loss of the American colonies, his nearly 60-year reign, from October 1760 to January 1820, is most notably remembered for the king's poor physical and mental health. Recent research suggests that his madness may have been a side effect of the prescription drugs he has been taking to treat his numerous health issues. Regardless of what led to George III's mental instability, he eventually lost it in 1811. He lived his final years in seclusion at Windsor Castle, devoid of all authority that had been transferred to his son and successor, the future George IV. 9. Joanna of Castile. Joanna, who reigned as Queen of Castile between 1504 and 1516, lived the majority of her time in a convent. The Queen, subsequently known as Juana la Loca, Spanish for Joanna the Mad, broke down following the unexpected passing of her husband Philip the Handsome in 1506. She had experienced mental instability since her youth. Joanna was institutionalized in a convent where she never left due to her mental illness, which led her father Ferdinand II of Aragon to take regency. She is believed to have severe depression, psychosis, or schizophrenia. Charles succeeded to the kingdom after her father's death in 1516, but she officially held the position of co-regent until her death in 1555. 10. Christian VII of Denmark. From 1766 to 1808, Christian VII of Denmark ruled his country for more than 40 years, but only in name. The young Danish monarch was mentally ill and unfit to govern, just like his cousin George III of the United Kingdom. Christian's mental instability quickly sparked power struggles, and anyone who was able to gain influence over him became the de facto king of Denmark. When Christian's son, who would later become Frederick VI of Denmark, seized control of Denmark as an unofficial regnant in 1784, the succession disputes came to a stop. Remember to like and subscribe to this channel, hit the bell button for easy notifications.